Today we are going to do an artwork inspired by the artist Keith Haring. You will need 2 pieces of paper, a pencil, an eraser, a Sharpie, scissors, and something to color with. Remember, you can pause the video at any time if you need more time for that step. Before we get started on our final project, I'm going to show you 2 different ways of drawing Keith Haring figures. The first, we're going to start with a stick figure. When you're drawing your stick figure, make sure that you make the arms and legs showing some sort of motion, which means they'll probably be bent. After that, you are going to draw a bubble that follows your whole stick figure. Make sure that you are going all the way around and pretty close to your line. You want to try to make the thickness the same all the way around. After you're done, you're going to erase the center. Now the second option is the one I usually use. We're actually just going to be making the outline of our figure. To start, we are going to make almost a complete circle, but leave a space for the neck. Make 2 lines that are coming down, however long you make these lines or how long your neck is going to be. Then you're going to make our arms. I'm going to make mine go out and down and out and up. We're going to make sideways U shapes for our hands. I call them bubble hands. Then we are going to do a copycat line that goes right back to the center. Now you don't want to connect it, you want to leave a space for the center for your body. Make 2 lines down for your body and then decide which way your legs are going to go. Mine are going to go out and down. I'm just drawing the outside line and then I'm making a bubble foot and then going back up and connecting. I like to use this way because there's a lot less erasing and the thickness of your arms and legs tend to be the same, much more consistent. You can see they're about the same width all the way around. Below the video, I have attached this image of different Keith Haring figures that you can use for inspiration for our project. To start our project, I'm going to get my 2 pieces of paper out, one for the stencil and one for the final copy. The stencil paper I am going to fold in half. That way I make sure that my Keith Haring person is not going to be too big to fit on the final page. I also want to make sure I draw it big enough on this page so that it's not too small for the final project. I'm going to be doing the figure with a hand as a head. So I'm going to start out by doing the outline of the hand just like I would if it were just a regular Keith Haring person. After I've drawn the hand shape, I'm going to start on the body. So make lines for the neck and make my arms. Make sure I do a bubble hand, copycat around, make sure I leave a good space between my arms, draw the legs with a bubble foot, and connect. Now I accidentally made a little bit extra on the foot, but that's okay. We're going to be cutting this out and I can get rid of that. Remember, it's just a stencil. Now to start, I'm actually going to cut out my figure really close to the whole thing. That way I'm getting rid of extra paper that I don't necessarily need. When you're cutting, make sure that you're getting on your lines and you are taking your time. Remember, this is regular paper, so it's very thin and flimsy and can easily rip. I'm using big scissors, but I'm actually also going to use some smaller scissors because I know I can't get into my smaller spaces. I'm going to fast forward so you don't have to sit there and watch me cut out my whole project. Now that we have our stencil done, it is time to draw it on our final paper. The placement of your figure is up to you. You are going to be drawing it 3 times and we want to make sure that it shows movement so we can move it around our whole paper. It can be facing to the left or it can be facing to the right. I'm going to start my picture with my figure closer to the bottom, not directly in the middle, and trace around my haring person. As you're tracing, make sure you are going slow, taking your time, because it is very easy to rip or crumple up the paper while you're tracing. If you accidentally trace on top of your tracer, that's okay. It's not going to be part of the final project. I'm going to fast forward through my tracing so you don't have to sit there and watch me draw super slow. Now, the figure I chose to do has lines on it that you can't see with a tracer, so I'm going to have to go back and add those in on each time I trace this. Now I'm going to be tracing it again, but I'm going to move my tracer to a different part on the paper. Remember, you can overlap, you can go the same direction, or you can go a different direction. This time I'm going to make it a little bit higher, and the leg is going to overlap the hand, but I'm not going to trace the leg on top of it. Make sure you don't draw on top of something you've already drawn. For my last person, I'm actually going to be moving it onto the right side of the page and facing the right. Now it's time to Sharpie my Keith Haring people. Make sure you have a piece of paper underneath yours so that you're not getting Sharpie on the table or whatever you're drawing on. After you finish sharpening, make sure you erase all of your pencil marks. Now this next part you can do with pencil and then go back over with Sharpie, but I'm actually just going to use Sharpie. I'm making the motion lines all the way around my group of people. Make sure that you take your time so you don't make any mistakes if you're using your Sharpie, and make the lines pointing out. You want to show emotion and motion with these lines. After making the lines, we're going to be making a bubble around that whole entire shape. Make sure you follow along against the edge of your motion lines. If your line goes off the page, that's okay. You still want to make sure it looks like it's connected all the way around. After you're done with the first line, we're going to make another line, copying the same exact bubble that we drew before. After you're done with the lines, we're going to be adding a pattern into the background. You want to make sure that you do a simple pattern so that it doesn't take away from your figures. I'm going to be making circles of different sizes and making sure that they're not super busy. I'm going to zoom in so you can see how I color better. I'm going to be using bright colors along the outside of my people, along the outline. Pop art uses bright colors, so I'm using markers that almost look like highlighters. You use whatever you have. Each person is going to be a different color. While you're tracing, make sure that you do not overlap the colors with one another. To color inside my people, I'm going to be using different colors than what I outlined with. Remember when we use markers that you take your time, you make lines, and you're not scribbling back and forth. Do not leave any white spaces inside your color. After you color the people, the next step is to color inside the bubble that goes around your people. But you're not going to color where your motion lines are. We want to leave that space white so it doesn't distract from our people. Next, you are going to color the background. You can color that however you would like. I'm coloring the background a solid color and making my dots or circles each one a different color.